All right. Good morning to any replayers. If you're a replayer, don't forget you can still participate in the broadcast, even though you're not live. You can tap on the screen for hearts. Hi, Christy. You can, of course, ask me questions on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. I share links. If I talk about something in my broadcast, I will share my links in my Twitter feed. So follow me there. If you have questions that you want to ask, you can send me a Snapchat. So I'm joannazarach at hi. I'm joannazarach at all of those things. And hi, Lizette. And I would love nothing more but to answer your personal finance questions. The more I talk about this topic, the more I realize, hi, this is good to see you in here. It's the more I realize how much on the megabus, yes, on your way back to Chicago, I'm sure. The more I talk about this topic, the more I realize how much it's needed, like how little information's out there in financial literacy and personal finance, and how people are just intimidated to take control over their money. So, if you're new to me, my name is Joanna Zarach. I broadcast every single day, 7 days a week at 10 a.m. on money habits. So you know where to find me. You can rely on me to be here and to guide you through your money topics. And I do money habits every day because money doesn't sleep, and developing good money habits is something that takes every day. So I am a big proponent of paying attention to your money, and if you do it every day, it actually becomes a smaller and smaller task over time. So today what I want to talk about is where people spend time when it comes to money management, and most people will do the things that they're comfortable with. And I talk about big money and little money topics, and it's important to pay attention to both, but you got to start to do the 80-20. Now, if you're in business, or if you've heard this terminology, let me tell you what 80-20 principle means. It means you're going to get 80% of the impact with the first 20% of your effort. And it says to really focus on the things that matter. And so basically to get to 100 requires a ton more time to get perfect. And so if you want, I'm always repeating it, because I think the more I talk about it, the more it gets ingrained in my mind. The really 5 big money areas that you need to start paying attention to and start planning for in your lifetime in order for you to achieve wealth. If you don't pay attention to these topics, it's going to be very, very difficult for you. And people are like, well, I don't know. It's like, well, take the time, lay it out. Say, I'm going to dedicate an hour every week to learning about this topic if I'm not familiar with it, or once you learn it, to actually pay attention to it or plan it out. So what are the 5 big areas? Income. Income. You need to take control of the money you earn. You need to figure out how to make more money. It is extremely difficult to accumulate wealth at a lower income. You need to flex your, big money, no worries, big money. You need to get to a 6-figure income. You need to figure out how to get there, because we know it requires at least $50,000 to $75,000 a year just to pay for your basic needs and expenses, whether you're single or have a family. Yes, there are people who are frugal and who live on much less. If you have that discipline, more power to you. You don't have to then flex your income as much, your income muscle, because you're flexing all the other muscles. But if you're just I want to live a regular life and get wealthy, you're going to need to flex it to get to 6 figures. So figure out how, whether it's a side hustle. There's lots of materials on this. There's lots of resources. I recommend Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn. He's got a podcast. He's got a blog. He's extremely generous with the knowledge that he's learned upon his journey. Next is taxation. We're right smack in the middle of the tax season, and I hear people complaining about taxes and worrying about taxes and just not understanding. It's like you've got to comprehend. It's a blog. It's called Smart Passive Income. So it's a podcast that's the same name, and the guy's name is Pat Flynn. He actually just published a book called Will It Fly? And Will It Fly is a process by which you determine whether your business idea, whatever idea you have, it's a brilliant idea. Will It Fly is a book that takes you to the process to figure out, are you actually going to make any money doing this? So I haven't read the book, but I will when I have the time. So I recommend, so far I've been following his podcast, and he's got a blog. So whatever way you consume content, it's available out there. Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn. So taxation, again, stop being intimidated by taxes and start embracing it, and start understanding how taxation works, how it impacts the income that you take home. If you're a W-2 employee, if you're that's important, but it's even more important if you're a business owner. If you do not understand the implications of taxation and you're not taking advantage of tax-deferred, tax-protected, tax-advantaged accounts, whether it's an HSA, an FSA, an IRA, and 401k, and if you're like, what the hell did she just say? You've got to Google that shit today. Like, know your terminology. And if you're like too intimidated, find a resource. Find someone who's going to tell you. Ask me. I will explain it to you, every single thing, and tell you why it's important that you have that account. How does it work? How does it impact your cash flow versus your net worth? These are important things for you to understand. The third one is investments. Again, don't get intimidated by investments. And by the way, investments is not how you're going to get wealthy. The rate of savings and the combination of investment and time is how I propose you build wealth. I am all about accumulated wealth. That's setting aside a portion of your income every year into an investment portfolio that grows over time. Again, if you're super talented, if you're extremely good at sales, if you have a great idea, if you're willing to work hard, surely there is a way to just flex the income muscle. The thing is that if you make $500,000 and you spend $499,000 of it, hello from France, bonjour. If you spend $499,000 worth of that money, you have $1,000. You can earn $2,000 and spend $1,000 and have the same left over, right? So investing is a function of rate of your savings times time times the rate of return. Rate of return, you know, if you're going for something that's more than 10% rate of return, it's a little bit risky and it may be unrealistic, or it may require more of your time. Some people love real estate investing. It's extremely time consuming in my view, because how I like using my time. So I see the market as kind of the place where, you know, investments grow passively. You know, it's just a big machine of capitalist, the capitalist machine, and that's 8 to 10%. And 8% because I'm conservative, I expect 8%. I don't buy into anybody's hype that has a fund that they say it makes more than 8. I just don't believe it. It's just not historically accurate over time, right? So when I do my calculations, I use 8%. Obviously, big purchases, if all you see for value of money is the things that it's going to buy you, you're never going to hold on to it. It's like you have to start doing the exercise, no matter what your struggle is if you had $100,000, what would you do with it, right? And you may be like, I'll pay off debts, blah, 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 but if you like take care of your liabilities and the next thing you go to is buy something, then how are you ever going to manage $100,000? How are you ever going to accumulate to $1 million worth of net worth if that's your mentality, right? So one of the things I'm going to do, I have to sign up for today. Next month, I'm going to volunteer at my middle school, local middle school, to teach kids personal finance. I'm going to teach them about, like, there's no free money. Like, credit cards are like, you know, everyone's like, credit cards are the devil. Credit cards aren't the devil. It's just you don't realize the cost of credit. People think it's free money. It's actually the most expensive money you can get. And it's like, we're not taught some of the basics of personal finance, and we're not taught it's like, I was like, credit card is not free money. That is the most expensive money you ever get. Do not, like, look at that to, like, bail you out. You got to bail yourself out. And so I am about accountability and responsibility and about adding value to the world and figuring out how that works. But you know what? When you're starting out, you don't know, and no one teaches you. And if you come from intergenerational poverty or intergenerational struggle, if you don't want to consider yourself coming from poverty, if you're coming from money struggles, that's all you know. That's what you've learned. That's what you've been taught. And so trying to counter it, even just for an hour, even if I can do it for an hour, capture someone's attention to do that. And then number 5 is risks. You got to, like, figure out what your risk is. What is at risk when it comes to finances, when it comes to yourself, your biggest asset, right? Are you taking care of your health? Do you have, if you have dependents, people depending on you and your income, how are you going to mitigate loss of a job or disability or even death? And medical bills, all of that stuff. It's got to be like, you've got to factor it in. So you've got to pay attention to big money. So my message today is, how much time are you spending thinking about big money? And again, like, people get on and they're like, oh, I can save here a little bit, here a little bit, here. Right. And I do that too. Sometimes you've got to manage it. You can't just be, like, thoughtless. You've got to, like, set some principles in place to say, you know what? Like, I'll give you an example. I call it wishful purchasing. I go to the grocery store and I buy something because I'm wishful about it. I'm not intentional. And then it really gets to a point where it's really, and then I throw it out because it goes to waste. So being more intentional versus being mindless. So I know like these are things where I'm like, it's a waste. So eliminate waste from your life when it comes to finances, but spend more time paying attention to the big money, like, and mark yourself, check yourself, right? Write down, like, did I learn, like, what am I doing this year for income? Like, how much, and it doesn't have to be every day, right? Like, for that, that's just for habits. For that, you set aside time every week and say, I'm going to take 1 hour and I'm going to address one of these 5 topics. Or even 15 minutes, like if an hour is overwhelming, take 15 minutes and say, I'm going to read an article, or I'm going to think about my career path. I'm going to learn about taxation. I'm going to, for God's sake, review my tax return that someone else prepared. Like, do those exercises, educate yourself, start spending more time where it really matters when it comes to money management and wealth building. And I can guarantee you will see results. You may not see them immediately. It's not $2 in the bank that you saved. It's not like, woohoo, I saved money. But over time, you're going to start reflecting, and always mark your start point. Write down what's your net worth, where you're starting, check again in next year and say, wow, all these efforts that I put in, they really resulted in an outcome. But most people do not spend enough time in the big 5 when it comes to money. And I'm encouraging you to do that because of the 80-20 principle. And you're spending too much time in the minutia, and it's okay to do that if you balance it out with the big money. Or, you know, if you're just doing, like saying, okay, here's something I can control, because most people don't think they can control the big 5. And what I'm trying to tell you is you can. You can, and you will. And then you'll see that that's going to really, over time, that really makes a difference, and it's going to enable you to build wealth, and then you have more options in life, and less stress and less anxiety, and more freedom. And that's really what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to give more people the option of doing what they're really passionate about and what they're really good at to contribute to the world. Because I'm not looking to people who are like, oh, I just really wish I could do nothing. By the way, I've done nothing. It's really boring. And no one's there to do it with you. So, because everyone else is on the struggle train. And what you need to figure out is like, how do I contribute? How do I add maximum value to other people's lives? And that's the thing. You have to be willing to do that. And everyone's got gifts and talents, and I want more people to utilize them without the regard of our society's value to it. But once you've built your stash, once you've built your financial independence, you are free to do whatever you want. And that's what I want. So thanks for joining today. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Christy. Thanks, Lizette, and everybody else. And then, yeah, and we'll see you back in Chicago. So, you know, I've been busy doing a lot of stuff and around this financial stuff, and I'm doing more things. I'm going to be doing more and more things. As you'll see, I have to balance it with my other business, which is the business consulting that I do, which I've gotten more busy with as well. And then I'm doing like public speaking on Periscope, because as you know, hello, I love this media. I think live streaming, as many other people are recognizing, is the way of the future in terms of how we can engage with our audience, regardless of whether they're, you know, within our mile radius or not. And this is great. And so I'm an evangelist of Periscope, even though I've only been in, well, now it's been like 4 months. And so I'm going to be doing some public speaking. I actually have my first speaker. I got my first speaker agreement, which doesn't pay any money, but it gets me in front of people to talk about live streaming and Periscope and how you can connect with people. And this is exactly why, right? Like, we're here in different parts of the country, in different places, and we can connect. I know, isn't it funny? I know. I'm like, wait, since when did I become a speaker on Periscope? But you know what I did? I just raised my hand. I said, you know what? I think this is important, and I want to talk about it, and I want to find a venue, you know, to do that. So, yeah, that's just added to my list of things I'm doing. But I've enabled myself to do it, and I'm not going and saying, okay, how am I going to make money out of this? And, you know, oh my God, it's an expenditure, and I got to stay at a hotel, and I got to pay off all this thing. I'm like, oh great, I get to, like, maybe I can get 50 Twitter followers out of there. So if you know, I don't know if I've shared this on here, I'm trying to get to like 500 Twitter followers by the end of the February, and I'm like, I got to get 8 Twitter followers every day to meet it, right? Because I'm tracking goals. So I'm participating in other people's projects. Um, well, my kids are in school all day. Yeah, they're from 8:30 to 6. I hire out their like entertainment and education and people who engage with them, and then like weekends I just don't get anything done. And by the way, if you would see my house this morning, it's a mess. I don't balance. I've given up on some things. I don't spend time shopping. I don't. I haven't been cleaning my house. I have a cleaning lady in there right now, but it's still like it's a clutter city. Some would argue my relationship, my marriage is, on like life support because like I'm like I don't have time for this. I got important things to do, and my husband's extremely supportive of my projects, but it just means like less time. So I'm trying to juggle 6 balls when I only can juggle really 3. So I'm just putting some things down at times, but I'm more energized by this, and this is important. So I recognize that I'm not dropping balls. I'm putting them down like very consciously, and then my weekends I spend with the kids, and evenings and mornings, and I give them. And by the way, I buy them, like, I don't buy them, like, don't get me started in private school because I don't believe in the private school system. I feel like education should be accessible to all people, and so my kids go to public school, not because they can't, like, I just think it's a waste of money to send them to private school. It's a perfectly good public school, and it also gives me an opportunity to interact with the community, and it's our local public school, so I'm part of the community, and I don't want to be that versus, dropping my kids off at the, like, posh private school that costs 25 grand a kid a year. Like, I'm like, I did the math, by the way. If you send your kids to a highly paid private school, just one child, over the 12 years, and if you were invest that money instead, you could be leaving them with a $500,000 like trust fund to say, hey kid, like you want to be an artist, you want to do something society doesn't value but really enjoy, go for it, right? Like I've given you basic income for life. Like I'm not giving you money to buy Prada bags, but I want you to not worry about rent, health insurance, and food. I want you to pursue your passion. So I'd rather do that because I went to public school and I went to really prestigious universities, and I know the value of all those things. And people don't stop and ask. They just go, oh, everybody else is doing it. Let me go do it. And you go, well, what are you buying? That's a big purchase decision, right? Education, private education for your child is a big purchase decision. And I've thought about it deeply. And so, right? I know it's well, my kids don't realize. Like no one realizes like what circumstances they are in. But I do it because I know the struggle. Like I had to make hard choices about my career because of like financial, and part of it was because I did enjoy business more than I did science. But I also like this financial education stuff, right? Financial education doesn't pay. Like no one pays you for that. And so how do I give myself permission to do something with an uncertainty of an income stream? And I'm doing that for myself, and I want to do the same for my children because I want to empower them to use their gifts to better the world, right? And sometimes, like, we put our children out and say, like, good luck with that, and like, and we're like, but why? My family, I see the family business of doing better in the world, and I want to position them to do that, to be able to do that. And so that's why, like, so I, as a parent, I've given myself permission to not buy into the hype of, like, if you're not spending time with your children, like, you're doing something wrong. No, I spend a lot of time with my children, and but I don't need to, I can contribute to their life in so many different ways than just my time. And so I'm very thoughtful about it, and I have a list of things I do for my children to ensure that not just today, but their entire life, that they can shine, right? Like whatever their passion is. I don't know what they want to do. I don't know who we all need to get to that point to find out what's our gift and what's our passion, because it's got to be sustainable, right? I have burned out more times in my life and my career, in my very highly successful career path. I have burned out multiple times, and I know that burnout comes from doing things that you're paid for, that you're good at, but just not sustainable. And so I don't want that for my kids. Why? It's because I spend numerous hours of my time thinking about things, and I've been thinking deeply about things since I was 15. right? I remember sitting in a school library at 15 going, shit, I'm like the oldest 15-year-old in the world, right? I'm thinking about death and the meaning of life and like everything. Yeah, right? Like they need to learn the value of friendship and why people want to spend time with them. And so all of those things are important lessons. And even like when they ask for my time, I say, well, how do you feel? How does it make me feel when you're whining? And like you want to make yourself someone who, and they're 4, I know, I'm like the most philosophical parent. I'm like, how do you think it feels for other people to want to spend time with you? And, you know, make it worthwhile. And so, you know, I'm starting to like ingrain in them the lessons that I've learned for over time, right? Like that's what I'm passing to them, the wisdom that I have achieved. That's what parent does, right? About money, about people, about relationships, about how we're not alone, and about how we need to contribute to the world and make the world a better place, right? And it all sounds so like, you know, it sounds like I'm being so giving, but I'm being selfish at the same time. I want to do what I'm best at, right? I want them to do what they're best at, because we all have like a light that shines brightly, and then we have a lot of influences that dim that light, and I don't want that. And so I've decided to like make it my life's work to, one, better other people's lives, and then make sure that my children, because they're very privileged, but I have no qualms about it to say my children are privileged. And the only privilege, because I came from struggle, right? Like that's the realization is when you have something to compare it to. But they don't know that. They see it and they're like, our friends have bigger houses, our friends have vacation houses, you know, like, and they're only 4, so it's already there, right? So it's like you have to counter the messaging. Anyway, I know it's just a slightly different answer than how I do it with twins. But, you know, I mean, something's gotta give. I don't have, you know, I'm not capable of full-time employment, but I haven't been for a while. I've lowered my income from where it used to be 3 years ago. All these things, I very consciously chose those. And I said, you know, these are the important things, and this is how I'm going to achieve them. And it's a balance that I don't always achieve, right? It's not a balance. Like, there are times where I'm frustrated with my children because I'd rather be like, or I take time away from them, you know. I'll like on Monday night, for example, like, okay, my husband's going to take care of the kids because I'm going to go and meet with the family and talk about their money, right? I take the time to do those things, and it's not sustainable long term. So, but I'm just like, I got to pick and choose, and you just got to be a little bit out of balance at times. But then like always be available when it's important. Like when my children are sick, I'm like, F it, I'm not doing anything. Or like I'll do my Periscope, I'll do this, and then I will cancel my meetings. And then it allows, I've created a life where I can make those choices without feeling like, oh, perhaps I'm going to get fired, or someone's going to be upset with me. I'll be like, okay, if this doesn't work for you, like, I understand. I don't take it personally. I understand other people's needs, and I like, this is what I offer, and this is what people can, they either take it or leave it. Like, sounds so such an ultimatum, but like, here's what I offer, here's what I bring to the table, and it's good and bad. I'm like, you know, I don't like dressing up, I don't like putting makeup on. Like, these are the things intrinsically true about myself. So if I find like there's a job where that's a requirement, I'm gonna resent it, and so I try not to do that. And like, I experiment. I'm like, okay, I have to show up with jeans. Will people like stop paying me because of work I do? It has nothing to do with my image. It has to do more with my brain, what I deliver, and how I analyze things. So I said, I don't know. I mean, I'm still, you know, I'm still clean. Like, I have hygiene. I have clean clothes. Like, there's nothing you know, there's nothing like intrinsically bad about it. It's just like, I'm trying to deliver value here, and if my clothes, you know, if like a fancy shirt and uncomfortable shoes are required for it, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass. And so, which is hard. It's hard to do that in society. You get judged a lot by that. But I'm very, very comfortable in that space in terms of like being who I am and being strong in it. And it's just one of the bigger. I realize that it's a pain too, because I don't take input very well either, right? I'm like, oh, whatever, I don't care. You know, like sometimes people's opinions do matter, and I sometimes dismiss them. So it's like, know thyself. Because I'm getting too old too, you know, like if you watch some of these videos where they're like old women giving advice to younger men and women, they're like, just stop giving a fuck. Like, I think for women especially, it's an important message, but it's also a hard message, because we're programmed and trained to value other people's opinion of ourselves way more, and it's harsher, and it's harsher from men, and it's harsher from other women than any other than the other gender. So I think that's really, really important to to be able for you guys to, for me, and to embrace that fact. And I do have a daughter. It's very hard, right? I have a daughter and a son, and I'm already seeing the gender, the treatment, the different treatment in by gender that they receive in school, because boys don't come out of it unscathed. And boys don't come out of it unscathed either, right? It's not a privilege to be told that you can't have emotions and you can't to do certain things. I mean, it's we really need to focus more on letting people shine in their own way versus just, I mean, but it's hard. You know, self-love is one of the hardest things to achieve because we have so much critical voices in our head, and that's what, like, I tell my husband all the time, our job is to make sure we're not creating any more self-doubt in our children's minds than already exists. We already come pre-programmed with self-doubt. That's how we survive. And so I want you guys to understand kind of where where it's coming from. I was able, because I stood out from a very young age, apart from both the skill set but also the encouragement. I got lucky, but part of it is also just ingrained, like, stubbornness, and then working really, really hard, and then being put in very, very challenging situations from very, very early on, and then rising above it. But it comes at a price. Like, none of that, like, no one comes unscathed from their experiences. You go, you know, like, you don't trust people, you don't, whatever it is, you know. It's like, we're all like a stereotype, right? I'm a stereotype too. But that's the important thing for the children, is to just not just your presence, but your attitude and your self-care. And if you're stressed as a parent, there's, like, you have limited love to give to your children, even if you think you should, because you just don't. Like, energy is limited, and I recognize that. I get angry, I get impatient, and I just, like, need to release myself. Release myself from the expectation that, like, it's all going to go perfectly, or, you know, all that. So when I do that, I'm okay. I stop yelling, right? Like, and I try really the positive parenting and all that, but it's like, I don't have all the patience in the world, because I got shit to do, right? And I'm like, Mommy does, you know, like, my 4-year-old says, Mommy does a telescope. She calls periscope telescope. Mommy has to go to her telescope. Mommy's helping people, right? Because I try to explain to her why what I do is important, so that she understands that I'm not choosing not to choose her, that I have other things and other interests, because I want her to learn that about herself as well, that she does the things that make her happy. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think it's like this. So yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It is like and it's so damaging, because, like, what are you teaching your children? That you're just, like, you know, and like, just like, they're 4, they should be able to take care of themselves. Like, at some point, you should start setting some expectations for your children to be a little bit self-sufficient. Like, you don't need to put them out in the farm. By the way, that's what used to happen. 50 years ago, kids used to go to factories. 100 years ago, they used to go on a farm. That was, your child was a resource for you to survive. And, like, the modern parenting is, like, completely upside down, right? It's like, and like, people live for their kids, and, like, that's so much pressure on the children when they're like, well, you know, I invested all this time in you, when I put you on those classes and all those lessons and years and years and years, you better perform. And they're like, you know, I mean, kids are committing suicide because of this. Like, look at Palo Alto. They have, like, a slew of suicides and kids on antidepressants. Are you effing kidding me? You know, like, so it's like, check yourself and your own expectations and what you're putting on your kids. But anyway, I know we totally went off topic, but it's like 80-20 to your children too, right? Like, how are you thinking about your children's future, and where you're spending your time? Maybe their clothes don't have to match. Maybe that Valentine Day, you know, whatever, cards don't have to be perfect. But have you thought about the financial strain you're putting on them? Have you really thought about it? The pressure? And I'm like, and that's the expectation. You said, well, you know, you have to be. It's like, no. And what about the other children that come with less, right? You don't want them to be like, oh, look at my stuff, it's so much better. No, you gotta, like, accept the effort that other people have made or can't make, and just teach them to have certain level of gratitude and humbleness and just acceptance of others, and not to be like, well, you know, you didn't give me this special card. It's like, don't teach your kids that way, because it's just like, I mean, I'll be the first one to be like, you know, there is some value to elitism, but, like, once you it doesn't teach compassion, right? I'm trying to teach compassionate human beings, because, like, I feel like that's more important in the world than I don't know, success. Success will come if you just teach them to be compassionate. And again, like, we're 21st century, like, things are different. We're not just surviving. We are we have enough of everything. Read Abundance. If you want to understand some of my mindset, read the book called Abundance. I forget who's the author. I'll have to look it up and tweet it out. But read that, and then like talks about the future is bright. The future is brighter than we are being told. That being messaged. The future is bright, so stop struggling, and let's start working towards a world that accepts abundance as the way of life versus the scarcity mindset, where it's like, well, if you get a free sandwich, what am I going to eat? Well, there's fucking 10 sandwiches over here. Like, everyone gets a free sandwich. Like, what the hell, right? And it's like, maybe not everybody gets a Bugatti, but like, it's a mode of transport, like not a jewel, right? Like, the basics, we have enough of the basics to give to everybody. Let's figure out how to get there. So anyway, but 80-20, let's start spending time thinking about those big money topics. Give yourself some plans, give yourself some lessons. Of course, as you can imagine, one of the things I'm thinking through is like the coursework, the book, whatever, to try to break down those big 5 money topics. These are things that I have come to realize as I talk on these periscopes of like, what are the important things. So these are not things I've always practiced, but these are the things I've come to learn over time and come to realize. And I see the world through a different lens than I think sometimes people do, because I've had the exposure to Fortune 100 companies, to big corporations, to how stockholders think, how management thinks, people who make millions of dollars. I've read about it, I've learned about it, I've interacted with those people, and I go, wow, like, I get it. Like, I get it how it works. I do the math, right? And that's the other thing. I do the math. And so I'm trying to share that with people. And again, time and again, I talked to another 3 people the past week, and every single person after I talked to them says, look, I feel better about my financial future and more optimistic than I have ever felt in a very long time after talking to you for 3 hours, right? And I want to give that to people. I want to be like, oh, stop worrying about it so much. Not stop worrying, it's going to be okay, like pretend like it's going to be okay, but like, here are the ways in which your financial situations can be improved. And it's going to take some work on your account, and you might need to flex some muscles, but it's going to be okay. And I want you to understand that, the credit card interest you're paying is way too much. And these debts, you really need to have a repayment plan, right? Like, a lot of people have student loan debts, or if they're running a business, they're running a line of credit. And so that's but I'm trying to get them like honest answers with the level of knowledge that I have, and a level of knowledge that it's things they've never thought about. So anyhow, I want you guys to encourage each one to spend time, and it's over time, right? It's not like take a week's class and know everything. It's like, put the ideas into practice in your own life, see how it's changing. And I know it's not immediate, and that's like, you have to have some self-control, some delayed gratification, and then a little bit of discipline and a couple of systems, and you will see results. I guarantee that you will see results, because it's just math at the end of the day. Time, rate of savings, rate of return, compounding. And then when you get to that point where you say, is this enough? And then you can be completely free to do what you want. And that's the gift. So, and plus you can hang out with me. Really, at some point I was like, what I really want is other people who can hang out with me, because I'm tired of hearing I have to work, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't spend 2 hours. I have a 30-minute lunch break, right? I'm like, 30 minutes is not enough, So, thank you. Yeah, okay, I will. And some of them are just like solid spreadsheets that I make, where I'm like, here's your cash flow spreadsheet, here's your budget. And I get encouraged by somebody who just says, oh, like, let me try it out. And thank you. And you were extremely supportive. You're my number one, by the way. I see on my I have fullscope.tv. If you're a Periscope broadcaster, fullscope.tv gives you all your stats, like who gives you hearts, who attends your Periscope. So it's like, and it gives you like little scores. I should take a picture of it and like post it, but you're my number one supporter, because you're like heart happy, love it, and so appreciate it. Yeah, I do appreciate it, and it's like, hello from Chechnya, and but sometimes I engage in long conversations with random people who are just on my scope once, and that's interesting too, and I might never see them again on another scope, but I'm hoping that if one thing I say changes what they do tomorrow or the next day or the next year, that's all worth it. That's worth the 10 minutes, it's worth the hour, it's worth whatever. And again, it helps me see clearer what information is needed, and how I think about money is not the information that everybody else has. and how I need to be more structured, right? So like, yes, I know a blog, a written content, blah, 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 right? Like, but that's work, right? I gotta inspire myself to do the work, or to figure out like what the business plan is, you know, or if I want to spend my own money on paying other people to do that, and like what would that result in? But I'm a business person, you know, most of all, so I need to figure out how to make it sustainable. Besides my time and expertise. But 2016 is all about market research and exploring this space, and I'm okay with it, but I have to balance it with the other things: the family, the marriage, the relationships, the friendships, the actual business that pays the bills. Well, it doesn't pay the bills. I call it pay the bills, but brings in my income, brings in my options for my, it brings my investing. I call it my investing income. I work so I can invest. So silly, I have goals. And so that's the idea behind it. But thank you again for joining, everybody. It's good to see you on here, and then I will see you guys tomorrow twice, because Friday we're going to do a 10 a.m. and a 5 p.m. So 10 a.m. Money Habits and a 5 p.m. Central tomorrow. It's going to be Money Matters. Again, I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet, so I'm just like last minute, and I need to put more time into thinking it. I just feel like I'm running out of topics, so I might start recycling or just get a little bit deeper on some of the topics I've covered in the past. I just feel like it's a never-ending cycle of repetition and education that's really, really important. So, see you guys tomorrow, and have a great day, and spend a little bit of time thinking about your money.